Number 105 is your invitation. 105 in your hymnals. Paul said he didn't put Louisiana on these because people would ask where Evergreen is. Well, there's a lot of people in Evergreen that do not know where the Baptist church is, I can tell you that. So I'm glad you know where that is. Where's your t-shirt, Paul? I'd like to see everybody here next Sunday, men and women, with a t-shirt on. Come on. And you take this right hand and you put it right over your heart. That's where it is, right over your heart. I hope this church is in your heart, in my heart. I wonder if you caught this in the responsive reading from 2 Corinthians, the very last verse in the responsive reading. Now there's people say there's old folks in this church. There's no such thing as old folks in this church. Read it again. On the outside, you're getting old, but inside, we've got nothing but young people. We've got people with vim and vinegar. We've got people with get up and go. We've got people on the inside are getting younger and younger. Who's getting younger in here? Yes, you're getting younger. Thank you, dear old lady. You don't have old people in this church. You're renewed. That means God makes you, as you get wrinkled and old, on the outside, God is making you new on the inside. You're getting younger all the time. Yes, you are. But there's things on your body that might show your age. I'll ask for a show of hands on this. I'm not going to embarrass you or ask where it is. But does anyone have a scar on their body? Somewhere. Anybody that does not have a scar anywhere on their body? See that? I've got a scar. I'll tell you where mine is. It's right here. Back of my hand. If you were to come and look at it, can you come and look at my hand? Do you see that scar?
Yes, I do.
She sees it. The little white line right across the back. You'd like to know where I got that, huh? Right. No, it wasn't this. I was working on an automobile about 45 years ago, and the hood fell down and cut me right there. The rest of my life, that scar will be there. Behind every scar you have, and everybody had their hand up, said they've got a scar somewhere. Behind every scar is a story. Mine was about a car problem. It could be from an accident. It could be from a surgery. I've also got a little scar back in here that I won't show you because that's where they had to work on my brain. Do not say a word. There's a scar there. It's a very tiny little scar because it's a very tiny little brain. I know that. But, sir. And it could be from a fight or from a battle or from some kind of physical confrontation you were in. We have scars that tell stories. The Apostle Paul talks about scar that he has. In that 6th chapter of Galatians, at the very end, the whole letter of Galatians is written to different churches in an area that we would call Turkey today, the land of Galatia. And Paul was writing to them because there were people in those churches saying, you've got to become a Jew before you can become accepted by God. You've got to go through certain rituals. One of those rituals for the men was circumcision. just a physical surgical operation that marked you for life, that you were a child of Abraham. And they were saying you had to do this before you could be saved. Just as today, there are people who say you've got to go through a ritual, baptism, join a church, sign a dotted line, sign the card. You've got to go through something and keep a certain kind of rules before you can be saved. Paul's saying, no, salvation is by faith alone through the grace of God. And at the end of this chapter, he's dealing with this. But then at the very end, he has a sentence. Verse 17, actually the last half of verse 17. He says, I bear in my body the marks of Jesus. Now, when we think of the marks of Jesus, you might think of people who get the stigmata. We won't go into all of that. It's another whole message about people who, because of intense spiritual or psychological emotion that they have, develop the marks of the crucifixion of Jesus. But he says, I have the marks of Jesus in my body. So I don't need any circumcision. I don't need any rules. I don't need anything else. I have the crucifixion, death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus within myself. Now, some of your English translations may say, I have the brand of Jesus. Meaning, Romans used to brand their slaves. And he could be saying, I have the brand of Jesus on me. It's been burned on my flesh. Because I am a slave. And Paul, Romans 1, Galatians 1, Philippians 1, Titus 1. In every one of those, Paul calls himself a doulos. Some versions of the English language will soften that to say I'm a servant or a bondservant. Okay, that's softening that. Doulos means one thing in the Greek language of the New Testament. It means slave. And Paul is saying in all of those and many other places, he's saying, I am the slave of Jesus. Why? Jesus bought me with his blood. Because Jesus owns me. I belong to Jesus. Because I am under the command of my master Jesus. And I must obey him. And if I don't, I must give an account to him as my master. So in a sense, he could be saying, I have the brand of Jesus on me. I'm his slave. But he could also be saying, I have the scars of Jesus in my flesh. And he certainly knew what scars were all about. In 2 Corinthians chapter 11, he says these words, 5 times I received at the hands of the Jews 40 lashes less 1. The law said if you wanted to punish a Jew, you gave him 40 lashes, but you only gave him 49 in case you miscounted. They didn't want to go up to 41. He says, I've been whipped 5 times. 3 times I was beaten with rods. I spoke the other day to a man in Alexandria that you and I know from Vietnam, and he was telling me how one of the worst tortures they ever did in Vietnam was to beat the soles of the enemy with a rod. And it's one of the most excruciating pains that you can go through is to have the soles of your feet beaten with a rod. And he says, I have been beaten with rods 3 times. Once I was stoned. 3 times I was shipwrecked. A night and a day I was adrift at the sea. I didn't know if I was going to live or die. I was out in the middle of the Mediterranean Sea. That's a scar on my life. It's left its mark on me. on frequent journeys, in dangers from rivers, dangers from robbers, dangers from my own people, dangers from Gentiles. Even my own people turned on me, the Jews. Even the non-Jews turned on me. I'm scarred with that over and over. I've been in danger in the city. I've been in danger in the wilderness. I've been in danger at sea. I've been in danger from false brothers. Boy, that hurts. I have never been hurt by a hoodlum, by a gangster, by a prostitute, by a barkeeper. I've never been hurt by any of them. But I have been hurt by church people. Anybody identify with me? That's what really hurts. Some of my false brethren, people who claim to be Christians, but they turned on me. They hurt me, scarred me. In toils and hardships, through sleepless nights, insomnia can be a scar on you. In hunger and thirst, without food, in cold and exposures. And apart from all these other things that I've been through, there is the daily pressure on me of my anxiety for the churches. When Paul founded a church and he went on to another city, he didn't forget that church. He always was concerned about the welfare. And that can hurt too. Just your concern about God's work in the church. He knew what scars were all about. He was scarred for his life. Now, scars can be physical. See that? Scars can be emotional. Scars can be spiritual. And that's what I want to talk about this day. Those spiritual scars that we all have. And we all have them. But you know what else a scar shows? You've been healed. This doesn't bleed anymore. This is not an open wound anymore. 40 years ago it did, but it's been healed. And the reason it's healed is there's a white line across there. And it tells me it's been healed. It's okay. I can go on. And many of you and I together know what it is to be healed, to be forgiven by God. And when God forgives you, he never lets you forget it. He always reminds you of that. Now, a scar may fade over years, or it may be permanent, but it's there. And it's a remembrance of the grace of God. Every time I look at that, I say, God, you were good to me. You healed me. You did something good for me. Every time I look within my heart, I see scars of things that go way back, even before adolescence. You hear me? Before adolescence. And yet God saved me. The scar's still there. I can still remember them. I can tell you stories that I told them. If I told them to you, you'd run me out of this church. Yes, you would. Because you'd say, someone like that can't be in our church. A lot of times people who have done wrong and people who have failed to do everything right come to me and say, David, do you think they would accept me in that church? We accept each other because we've all got scars, we've all got healing, and we all have the grace of God. You know I have several Bibles. Every Bible I have, I made a picture and put in. It's a picture of me. What's that a picture of? I keep picking on you, don't I? What's that a picture of? That a good-looking boy?
That's right.
Who is that? Come on. Of course it's me. When I was 14. I was 14 once. 14. You know why it's in there? Do you know why I pasted in there? And right under it is Psalm 41 through 3. I doubt if you remember it, but when I first came here, I preached that to you. Psalms 40, 1 through 3. What's that boy doing?
Now you're asking.
I'm picking on you. Yeah,
Let me see. I can't see that.
What's he doing?
Well, I don't know. You got something in your hand.
What's he doing? He's doing what, Mike? He's digging a hole. Right up there on the shore of Lake Erie, Ohio. I'm digging a hole that is way down in the ground. I dug my own hole, and so have you. I won't dwell on it, I'm not going to say anything about it, but I visit Charles every week in isolation. I gave him a Bible, and in that Bible is that picture of me. And I tell him, Charles, and I still don't know if he's innocent or guilty. And don't you let anyone tell you he's one or the other. It hasn't happened yet, but I tell him, Charles, you dug the hole. And you can't get out of it until you cry out to God, and God will lift you out and set you on a rock and give you a song. And many shall see it and hear it and come to trust in the Lord. And he understands that. You are in a hole just as I am. Many of my scars, spiritually speaking, are self-inflicted. We're not talking about cutting your wrist. We're talking about your sin against God. Self-inflicted. You can't blame your parent. You can't blame your church. You can't blame your school. You can't blame relatives. You can't blame society. You and I dig our own hole. We cut ourselves and scar ourselves. We all do it. And only God and His grace and His love and His forgiveness can lift you up and heal the wound. And it'll leave a scar that you'll never, ever be able to forget about that. I'm wounded, I'm healed, and I think I'm stronger. There's one thing about scar tissue. On this little lily white hand, the toughest area of that hand is the scar. And you can be sure of this. If you've scarred your spirit, if your soul is scarred, if your heart is scarred, if it's scarring you emotionally, physically, or most of all spiritually, you'll come out of it when God heals you. You'll come out of it stronger than you ever were before. And you know what that scar can do? What your story about the scar on your heart can do? It'll help someone else. Let me tell you about one of the men in the Bible that is probably more scarred than anyone else. His name is Peter. On the night of the Last Supper, Jesus said to Peter, "You are in trouble. Simon, Simon, behold, Satan has demanded that he might sift you like wheat." My mother, so many years ago, used to buy flour, and she'd bring it home, and she'd put it in a little can that had a little trigger on it, and she would sift it, sift it, sift it, sift it, sift it. Satan wants to shake you up. He wants to shake me up. He wants to get you all shook up. And he did with Peter. And Peter was shaken. And he did deny his Lord. Not once, not twice, but thrice he denied his Lord. But you know what Jesus told him before he was scarred? Before he felt his Lord? When you are turned again, repent, turned again, strengthen your brothers. Oh, how Peter strengthened his brethren. How he helped other people who were hurting. And you take your scars You take your hurts, you take your wounds, and let God heal them, and let God's grace make you a new person, a stronger person. And you will go out and you'll bless everybody else that you touch. There's not an Alcoholics Anonymous subscriber that I know of that won't tell you that the best help they get are from who? Drunks that are sober. And the best help you can be, the greatest strength you can be for others, is when you've repented, turned your wounds over to God, and let the scars, the healing, the forgiveness, and the story behind the scar, it will bless so many other people. And when you are turned again, strengthen your brethren. Everybody needs help. Even the Christians in this church, they need your strength. They need your story. It's not this, though. You can wear this and go right straight to hell. You can wear this and go to hell. You can be just as lost. But oh, it's the story that's underneath all of this, that's inside of you, can show people that God can take you and me. The me that I won't even tell you about my bad past, because you run me out. He can take you and me, and he can strengthen other people with your story, with your scars. Have you come yet to him for that? Oh, his grace, unmerited love, his grace